good? Okay, we'll call this work session to order. Today we're going to talk about something that's been underway for at least a year specifically, and for a lot longer than that. So today I'm going to turn it over to our Community Development Director, who has been working on it from day one since he came and got that job.
All right, well, this is a part of our comprehensive plan, but this was extrapolated out by Clatsop County, and they are doing these reports for every city and unincorporated county to take a look at our housing inventory, our infrastructure, and our buildable lands inventory. So they've gone to Gearhart, Cannon Beach, Astoria, unincorporated county, and Warrenton, and they are taking a comprehensive look of what we have for housing and what we have for availability to build more housing. So I have Steve Faust from 3J. He's another arm of 3J. Scott's doing our comprehensive plan. Steve's taken on this project with Alyssa Gertler, the Clatsop County Housing Manager. I'll turn it over to them and let them show you what they found.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Good to see you guys. Alyssa Gertler, Clatsop County Housing Manager. I haven't met all of you, so it's nice to meet you. 2 years ago when I took this job at the county as the housing manager, which was a position that the county had wanted, but I never had, one of the first things people said to me is, hey, there's this 2019 housing study, and it was kind of generic. It didn't really sum up our issues, but it brought up some key questions about buildable land and what kind of housing we need and for whom and what's the population growth. And if you're going to work at the county, you should really take this report and run with it. And so we have the Regional Housing Task Force, which is a county-wide housing group that the mayor sits on, and a number of other elected officials and community partners from each city in the county, who work together on housing, kind of recognizing that each city doesn't need to solve housing all by themselves. As you often say, Mayor, we're all connected here economically and at the housing level and across transportation, and you guys probably know this better than I do. And so we decided that we would work as a region to look at our housing needs, and specifically, as Jeff said, buildable land, infrastructure, and sort of a needs analysis. What is our supply? What's our demand? Who's it for? And so we got a grant from the State Department of Land Conservation and Development a year ago to basically do this report, and we're right on schedule to finish it. So as Jeff said, we're now presenting to each city. I think you'll see what we've heard from other cities is, you have done a great job of defining the problem here. Now let's talk about the solution. And so I think it's really helpful to have more information and sort of more up-to-date, specific for each community information about your land, your infrastructure, your housing supply. But it also begs the question of what next? And so we want to give you this information with the idea, knowing that Seaside in particular has really been quite proactive about housing and taking really good steps to help you think about how this might inform what you do next. And so I would like to introduce Steve to walk you through the findings.
Thanks, Alyssa. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. Steve Faust with 3J Consulting. Not necessarily a different arm of 3J, but maybe different fingers of the same arm with Scott. Thanks for having us here. I think Alyssa gave us a good introduction. Both Jeff and Alyssa mentioned buildable land inventories, infrastructure needs, and inventory of housing supply are the three pieces of the work that we've done. We did start, as Jeff said, or as the mayor said, I think a little over a year ago. We've met with the task force a few times to report some higher level findings. Then we drafted the three pieces. We met with Jeff virtually to kind of look at a map and say, all right, this map says this area is vacant, but what's the real story? It can look vacant in a buildable land inventory, but might not necessarily be buildable. So now we're kind of bringing this information to you, as Alyssa said, and we'll be preparing final reports following this meeting with any feedback from you, and to incorporate the information we got from Jeff at our meeting with him, any other final details. We really want to make these as reports as accurate and useful as possible. So, starting with the buildable land inventory, which determines the amount of developable land available within the UGB. for just in case anyone's not familiar with the buildable land inventory, we start with the full supply, in this case of residentially zoned land. We take out different constraints like stream corridors, steep slopes, wetlands sometimes can be removed and sometimes not. Actually, most of the time not. I'll talk about that a little. Well, actually, I can just say it now. The state only allows us to remove wetlands from properties with wetlands from the inventory if the city has code that restricts development on properties with wetlands, and most communities do not have that. They have some sort of guidance or regulations, but that allow mitigation and allow some sort of some level of development. So wetlands actually rarely get removed from the inventory. We also remove unsuitable lands that might be public right-of-way, public parks, historic sites, small properties that already have units on them and are unbuildable, and then properties that are not serviceable by infrastructure. And when we take all those things out, we're left with our buildable land.
Sorry to interrupt you so
Sure.
early, but did you actually go parcel by parcel throughout
So,
the whole city?
We started with the GIS data that we have.
Yeah.
And then we worked with Jeff to say, hey, let's look at the buildable land inventory, determine do these look right? Are any of these misdesignated, and tried to refine that and get a pretty accurate inventory.
Yeah, I did try to take a look at each one, but I don't have historical knowledge on every property in the city. So when you guys review these reports, if you see something that looks correct or requires further exploration, bring it up and we'll look at it, try to take a closer look at it, and make the goal here is to get this as accurate as possible.
And we can provide Jeff and therefore you with, because right now the maps are in our report, but maps that you can really zoom in on and take a look a little more closely maybe than what the draft report allows you to do. So we can provide you with those. Just some of the BLI findings, nothing you don't know here. Significant constraints for Seaside include the floodplain, steep slopes, and then wetlands. Most of the larger buildable parcels in the city are east of Highway 101. And then in terms of the size of lots, which is really important because we get a lot of our inventory oftentimes being made up of 1 acre or less parcels scattered about a city. And that's really hard to do infill development on any real, with any real impact. So 199 of the 232 buildable lots are less than 1 acre. There are some larger sites of 20 sites with more than 5 acres. That's about 47 acres of land. When we get closer to the end of our conversation, that's probably some of the areas that you're already getting ready to have new housing development happen.
Why am I not understanding the math of 20 lots that are larger than 5 acres only equaling 47?
Because that must be an error. Thank you for that. Maybe that's the combination of larger than 1 acre, like 1 to 5 and 5 plus. I'll take another look at that. Actually, if you could look in the, maybe you can look for it while I continue the presentation.
I reread it like 4 times and I went, wait a minute.
Thank you for that. I'm surprised I didn't catch that. So this first map shows vacant lands. The dark purple are the partially vacant lands. So there's some sort of development on them. The green parcels are vacant. So this is before we remove any constraints from the vacant land supply. Good to see you. So in terms of total vacant or partially vacant acres, we have about 170 acres more or less before removing constraints. As you can see again, the 100-year floodplain is a major impact, bodies of water, steep slopes as well. So a lot of constraints impacting that vacant and partially vacant land.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you taking into consideration all the stuff from the FEMA buy-up?
I believe that was all incorporated. That's my understanding from our GIS folks, that they included that.
My question when reading it is it counted mobile home parks as still buildable land?
Should not be, it could be as part vacant, depending on if there's area for more. There's kind of rules about how you look at parcels that have development on them and how much land is remaining. But typically, if they have mobile home parks, those shouldn't be identified as
It definitely called it out specifically in there. That
As
that was
partially
built-
vacant?
As buildable land.
right, which it could be, like I said, depending, part of it could be, right?
Okay.
I think we'll have to take a closer look, thanks for that,
Yeah.
at like how many acres it's identifying as buildable.
Okay.
Because it's gonna show up if there's any capacity, even if it's it's a 20 acre site and there's 2 acres, it's gonna show up as an opportunity. So this is for the whole city, not just for the vacant land, but obviously 35% of the land in the city is constrained. And when we remove those constraints, we're left with this, which is a much patchier once you're removing your slopes and your other constraints. You can see there's some vacant parcels down in this area. You've got some vacant here. You've got that purple parcel up above that's partially vacant. Is that where one of the parks is?
I'm not sure what that is without zooming in.
Probably 1,000 Trails.
Yeah, that's probably that's Thousand Trails,
Okay.
the north side of it.
Well, we'll continue to refine with comments from you and with Jeff taking another look.
Yeah.
But what we're left with is about
That's floodplain.
total buildable of about 83 and a half acres once we remove all those constraints. So I heard, did you see?
It's not correct in here either.
Okay. We'll take another look at that then. Thank you. So take another look at the parcel size table, and then we can dial in a little bit on the mobile home parks to see how those are showing up in the inventory to make sure they're getting recorded accurately. Any other questions about buildable land inventory?
I think your plan, and that was, I assume that we were gonna see it eventually be able to drill down to actual parcels. Homework for counselors is to look at your ward or wards specifically before you look at anybody else's. And go through it with a fine tooth comb and see if you agree with what they've done. And if you don't, then send something to Jeff.
So Jeff, I'll follow up this week with maps that you can share with folks that allow you to really zoom in.
Great, yeah, that would help.
If you wouldn't mind going back real quick, one parcel that has been the subject of controversy is this one right here. Has there been any movement, Jeff, to try to develop that?
So that, I've had inquiries about it, but nothing's actually come in with a development plan. There was an attempt to develop that in the 90s that went through LUBA, and as far as I could find the records, it just never materialized. That's also a discrepancy in our UGB that Scott is working on, because we're, with our comp plan, we're also going to adopt a new zoning map that'll digitize our zoning map and clear up some of these UGB errors. So that's an area where we have a discrepancy. I think we figured it out based on what the state has on file. And then part of that is zoned R2, but it's not inside the city. So there's been some weird things that were done in the 90s that we've just never been able to walk the history back on.
So your thoughts are that is developable, because that's the big chunk of our available land, but it's been a big controversy whether that can even be developed.
It is developable. I don't know if our infrastructure can handle a development of that size. That's something we would have to have a look at before we went down that path. But it's, from my perspective, it's zoned R2. It's inside our urban growth boundary. That line will shift a little bit depending on what the mapping shows when we finish our new zoning map.
So is that area, when you drive up?
Yeah. It's
Is
kind of
that-
behind the houses. I don't know if you recall the Save Our Trees.
Yeah.
That was what
Oh,
they were
that's what
referring
that
to.
area
And that's
is.
kind of why I wanted to bring that up, is I don't know,
Yeah.
what the history of that property is, or if it can be.
And my assumption is the reason that not all of that is green is because of the slope.
There's some slope there.
So you'd have some
Um,
slope issues getting to just the little green
There's
patches.
a stream down there. There's some wetlands down there too.
Slope.
There's a slope,
Yeah.
yeah.
Quite a bit.
That's why it's,
So the area that is south as you drive up, that's all wooded, is that what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's the area you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah.
But it goes down and then it also comes back up. I mean, I want to say that's like in total, like a 500 acre parcel, but not all of it's in our UGB.
Right.
And anybody wants to come look at the 90s situation, I've got 3 or 4 boxes and you're welcome to go through it and try to make heads or tails of it.
One of the other things to note, and it's not as pronounced in Seaside as some of your neighbor communities, but once you take those constraints away, what was a big patch of, I'll go back, a big patch of green or purple, like you see over here, turns into these more dispersed, smaller patches once you remove the constraints. And now something that in the first map looked very developable is like, well, can we even get infrastructure to that site? How much can we get as a return in terms of number of units on those sites? Is it going to cost out in terms of, what you can get on the site? So,
Yeah, that big purple area has to be Thousand Trails. And so it shows this big vacant area if you take a picture when it's not full of trailers and campsites and other uses.
but is it privately owned?
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably why. Because if it was publicly owned, it would be removed, but if it's privately owned, so we can take a look at that. Okay.
One other thing, just for the fun of it, we went through this in about 2015, 2016. You look down the lower right corner where there's that kind of big square, right there, south. That's all outside the urban growth boundary. And back then we tried exploring the idea of extending the urban growth boundary to bring more housing availability, and the people that lived there were dead set against it.
Just,
We ended up not doing anything.
and just so you know, those same residents have an agreement with the city to provide water, which expires in about 7 years, and are interested in
At the end of the road.
renewing that agreement. I have a
So
letter
we
from them.
could hold that hostage?
Now. It's basically everything south of Avenue S in the corner. of
Right,
Kearney.
in that corner.
Didn't they
That's
identify
awful.
that was one of the only large flat parcels that's even
There was
available?
that, and then one of our concerned citizens that lived down in the area past the cove there suggested that this should be one that be included too.
Isn't that zoned agriculture?
Timberland right now, I think.
Well, that gets to
Part
this.
of the agriculture part is timber.
That gets to this number here, the 83.5 acres of buildable. The better job we do refining the buildable land inventory with your help and with Jeff's help and get down to the actual number, the whole impetus for expanding an urban growth boundary is, does your 20-year demand exceed your supply? So the more realistic we are about supply, the more possibility there is of looking at that
And that's
land.
The basic reason why we stopped doing it is because we didn't have anything that really said we need this supply
Yeah.
for the future.
Right.
So you take out Thousand Trails and we're down to about 35.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
Thousand Trails isn't gonna sell that land.
Yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere.
However,
Yeah, but it's.
I will say,
No.
we can talk to DLCD, but the likelihood that they'll let us remove that Thousand Trails is not great, because they're gonna say that's privately owned property. Someone in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, the owner could decide that they wanna develop it. We have to demonstrate that it's, it's some
Then
sort
look
of
at the
permanent
flooding.
use.
Look at the flooding that
It
happens.
spends a good chunk of the year underwater. So I mean, it's not even 100-year flood, it's annual, it's flooding.
And that's floodplain or wetland? Because again, the wetlands are a challenge.
Probably wetland, but
Worse
Yeah.
than wetland, less than floodplain.
yeah.
There's kind of this discrepancy, and right now there's, Alyssa knows as well, we're part of the process to do rulemaking about housing at the state level, and one of the things our group that we work with is looking at is how do we make these buildable lands inventories more realistic? And it's not just all this paper capacity that you say exists, but then when you get down to it, it's really not very buildable. So we hope that refinements in state law are gonna help us with this process. But for now, your review can really help us with the process. Okay, infrastructure needs. This part of our reporting was pretty challenging for two reasons. Number one, we relied on water, sewer, and transportation system plans. Often a little bit out of date, number one. And number two, especially water and sewer, really look at system capacity as a whole and improvements that are needed as a whole, but they don't always specify, okay, what's needed, they don't call out like, oh, what infrastructure is needed to serve this area in particular or that area in particular. It's just not how they're designed. So without the conversations with Jeff, we'd have very little to go on, which is bigger picture items like this. So we looked at the water system plan, the transportation system plan, the capital improvement program. And we have these bigger picture needs, right? A wastewater treatment plant, water filter plant, water reservoirs, and water and sewer pump stations, either new or improvements to those facilities. That tells us about the system overall, and those are certainly very important and very important to serving these expansion areas, but it doesn't tell us if there's any specific infrastructure needs to reach certain areas, and that's what we talked with Jeff about, and I don't have a lot on today, but in our final report, we're gonna have a map with opportunity sites and cite different infrastructure needs that could unlock additional lands for housing.
So we have an RFP going out soon for an update to our wastewater treatment plan. And by this time next year, we hope to be on our way with our water master plan update. Will this be configured in such a way that when those are updated, we can easily insert it in here, for lack of better saying, and it updates, or would it require a whole new revision of the document?
No, I think, and we can provide you with Word versions of these things, but I think we right now can make sure if it's not already in there, that information that the city is looking to upgrade these systems is in there. And then once it is, you'll be able to just swap out what we had written about the infrastructure and put in new pieces.
It'd be, I mean, ideally what we want is, good information going in to get good information out.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think, we didn't write the reports in a way that there's any numbers or anything about capacity that are impacted. But the final report, the executive summary that we are preparing would change because we're identifying opportunity sites that are currently not feasible because of infrastructure needs. And so that would be the one piece that you'd be able to really update and say, okay, now some of these pieces that before we couldn't develop now are developable. Okay, the third leg of the report was housing supply. We started with just basic demographics. Seaside has seen a moderate but steady growth over the last 20 years. According to the Portland State University Population Research Center, they expect another 2,000 or so residents over the next 50 years. Long period of time, probably pretty standard. What?
Well, we went from, in 20 years, we went up, 20%, but we're only gonna go up another 20% in 50 years.
Seems low to me,
Makes no sense
It's very low.
given the apartments and everything that are going.
Can I say something about, this is all based on the Portland State University population
Right,
forecast.
right.
And that's
as
what we
you
hear all
know,
the time.
yeah,
It's-
It's
They weren't
statewide.
very accurate before.
They're projecting low, they're projecting far less growth than we've seen in the past, and frankly, every city in Clatsop County is like, this doesn't seem right. Gerhart is actually challenging it, and so I think you guys are raising an issue that we know about in the county and need to keep bringing up.
It doesn't take into account the movement that happened during COVID, because it's back to 2020.
Right.
And so the increased movement of people around just different places, it isn't captured in that data.
I actually think their methodology doesn't work in the recreational communities because of that very point.
Towards the end, we'll have a slide that focuses on needed housing units, and let's see how that matches up with this or does not match up with this. That'll be interesting. In terms of population distribution, Seaside is similar to the county overall. About 26% of the population is retirement age, so 65 and older. You can see that 50 to 80 is a pretty big chunk, not as much as Cannon Beach, obviously, but more so than Astoria and Warrenton. Seaside also has one of the smaller youth populations, not drastically different or smaller, but a little bit different than some of the others. In terms of cost burden, so cost burden is defined as households that spend 30% or more of their income on their housing. 46% of occupied housing in Seaside is homeowners. 46%, which is pretty low actually relative to some of the other communities. About 38% of those homeowners are cost burden. So again, spending 30% or more of their income on housing. For renters, the inverse of that, 54% of occupied housing in Seaside is renter occupied, and about 51, so half of renters are cost burden or spending more than that 30% on their housing.
So where in the 46 and 54% do, I would imagine second homes are in the 46%, but the homes that are simply owned and used as vacation rentals, where do they fall?
Either occupied, so these are.
We do have a little bit of information on that too. I can't pick that up for you specifically in these
There's a
numbers.
vacancy rate, I think.
Well, I'll get to that, yeah. Let's keep going and see if your question's answered, because there's so many nuances to this information. This is an interesting one looking at affordability. So this is for renter households in particular. And we have it broken down by income bracket. The green is the number of households you have at each income bracket from low to high. And the purple is the number of units that are available, rental units. So I think a lot of communities in Clatsop County have been thinking about that there's a workforce housing shortage, right? And there is. But you look at this and you're like, oh, for people who make 25 to 34, there's so many more housing units, rental units than there are households. But what we see here is at the low end, these households don't have enough housing at these very low ends. So they're spending way more than their income to pay for these. And we have the same issue on the high end, where for the few renters there are at the higher income levels, they're spending below what they can afford. And so what we end up is with a crunch in the middle. In terms of vacancy, so about 29% of housing units in Seaside are vacant. So almost 30%, almost a third of units are vacant. That's almost 1,500 units. 90% of those vacant units are second homes and short-term rentals. And then just 4.5% or 4.6% of those vacant units are available for purchase or for rent. So a very small percentage.
So if we can take a minute and break that down a little more, because our concern is always VRDs. What is our VRD number right now?
I think we're still right around 430 between
So
330
over
houses and 50 condos or so.
So over 1,000 of those are not vacation rentals that sit
Second homes.
vacant because people want to have them for their personal use.
Second homes.
Yeah.
Good observation.
And just by comparison, this is actually low compared to your neighbors in Cannon Beach and Seaside, where they have Cannon Beach has 70% or 69%.
I would expect that.
Right, and so it's an interesting comparison, and of course you would expect it, but
Yes.
you guys are actually doing well in some regards.
No. That's good, I hate that.
In terms of housing supply by housing type, so about a little more than 50% are single-family detached. Seaside actually has a nice variety of housing types relative to your neighbors. Middle housing, so up to 4 units, and townhomes represent about 23% of the housing stock. And then multifamily makes up 20%, and mobile homes 4%. So
And do we have any idea how many ADUs we have, and where would they fall?
I don't think that is census,
good number to
included in
have.
the census.
Very few.
Yeah,
We
very-
don't, so we have the ADUs that have come into play since 2019 when the council passed the codes to put ADUs into our inventory. What we have a lot of are the beach cottages where there might be 2 or 3 or 4 small cottages on one lot that are non-conforming, but it's your kind of your ADU of times past. But I think we've probably permitted 5 ADUs in the last 2 years. It's not a huge amount of our supply.
I think there's some ADUs out there that just didn't get permitted.
There are.
I know some personally.
So relatively speaking, Seaside's doing pretty well in terms of variety of housing types, so that's great. We also looked, because we're kind of using some guidelines from the state around looking at what we call contextualized housing need. We looked at underserved communities. Most communities, the percent of white households that are homeowners is not 80 in the 80s or 90. In Seaside, it's closer to 50%, and 35% of all other households, all other races that are homeowners is 35%. And that's actually much higher than we see in other communities. So that's another encouraging thing to see, is that different community members are finding opportunities for home ownership. The rate of residents with disabilities in Seaside is higher than both the county and the state. I think that's the highest of any of the Clatsop County communities. 27% is pretty high. And all this is to say, we need to be thinking about what types of housing we're building. There's obviously a need for ADA compliant, universal design. I'm not an expert on different types of housing that's more accessible for people with disabilities, but that's certainly a consideration for Seaside.
Is there any correlation to the age? Because our age is pretty much higher than everybody else's too.
That's a good observation.
So.
Yeah, that chart from before, I'm sure that there is a correlation there.
And these statistics, are they mainly obtained from the American Community Survey?
We'd have to look at each one. I think some's from the 2020 census, but a lot's from the American Community Survey as well. And it should all be cited in the report. And then you're probably aware Clatsop County had the highest rate of homelessness per 1,000 residents compared to all other counties in Oregon. 926 people counted. So another issue that we just need to be aware of and be thinking about how our housing strategies can address that population. Next steps. So here's the chart that I mentioned earlier. This is, so in case you're not aware, Oregon has now changed the way we do housing. They call it housing capacity analysis. It used to be called the housing needs analysis. We used to get the population numbers from Portland State University, and then you or a consultant that you hired or your staff would extrapolate population growth into the number of housing units needed. Now that housing units needed number is allocated by the state. And so these are the numbers for Seaside that were allocated, I think, January 2025. So you can see the total for 1 year of the first year. I think they front-loaded, because cities have a deficit right now. Most cities have a deficit in terms of their needed housing. So the 1 year is more front-loaded than your overall, but it shows a need of 142 units for a 1 year need, and for the 20-year need, a little more than 1,800 units. And you can see most of those units are at the lowest income level. So I don't know if that aligns a little bit more with your thinking about how Seaside's going to be growing relative to that population forecast. You probably also know that because Seaside is less than 10,000 in population, these are not required targets for Seaside, whereas for Astoria, they need to develop strategies to meet their targets. Seaside does not because of the size.
So we would have to put 142 housing units into production annually to meet that, is what that's saying.
I think it's front loaded, so I think the 142 would decline over time. I haven't done the math to divide.
2,800 over 20 years.
If you did 142.
Right.
If you did, so that's
Right.
much higher than what the actual 20-year is. They said that the 142 is acknowledging that most communities have a deficit today that needs to be addressed, not just accommodating future growth, but like today there's a deficit that needs to be made up. So that 1 year is higher than just averaging it out.
I don't know how familiar you are with the methodology used in that, but they're assuming that essentially 90% of the people that are going to move here or grow here are going to be in the 0 to 30% AMI.
They're also saying that there's a significant deficit, as Steve was just saying. Like, we have a need today, right? You look around Seaside today, we have an affordable housing gap already. And so basically what they're saying is, you're below the line. You're not even at the line, let alone above the line. And so some of what it's not necessarily everyone's going to come here who's low income. It's we have low income people here who are now renting up because they can't find anything in their income level.
You're right, though. I mean, the highest numbers are right here, and certainly that's much easier to accommodate those higher income levels than the lower ones, but both in terms of numbers as well as just difficulty.
Yeah, I see a huge disconnect in how you turn high wage requirements and high materials requirements into building that turns into 0 to 30% AMI affordable.
Yeah.
And that's really where the huge disconnect becomes.
High land costs.
All of it, all of it
I mean,
together.
it's all subsidized, right? That's all.
That's
from
the only way
It's
it can
gotta
happen,
come from
yeah.
somewhere.
Is all 0 to 60 considered subsidized, or
Yeah,
0 to
pretty much.
50?
I would think
Yeah,
so.
definitely 0 to 30 is all subsidized, and then probably a lot of 30 to 60.
Yeah.
60 to 80, maybe you start to see multifamily at those income levels. The 80 to 120, lots of times is smaller houses and middle housing, and then your 120.
And I'm trying to do some math again.
Yep.
Of 1,600 plus 467 plus 318 plus 124 plus 365 doesn't equal 1,835 to me.
We just copied and pasted these from the report too.
That doesn't even go close to equaling out.
Nope.
There's a detailed table underneath this. I'll look at the table and I'll send it to you if you want
That's
to.
weird, because I'm pretty sure we just
Maybe
copied,
it's a 2835 or something.
or else we just made an error, but it should be on that. Yeah.
Jeff, the
I
apartment
apologize for that.
that's going in across from the police station, is there any subsidy there, or is that just market rate?
All market rate.
Do we know how many units are going in there?
60 to 66 units.
Two-story or three?
I think this should be
Is
603.
it two-story or three?
Does that
Three
math
stories.
work better?
And they should pour the first foundation this week, next week, so.
It's a lot closer.
That's 2,000 something. Yeah, it's interesting.
Are they doing
No, I think
ADA
total
housing as well?
35.
For
Any
that's
ADA?
required by the building code, and I'm
Got
not
it.
sure how many units that would be.
1388,
It's pretty close.
Small.
15.
But I think they are doing more.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
think we
close. It's
made.
closer.
I think we made a mistake in the 1,000 there. It might be 603. So from our conversations with Jeff, we were just, as I mentioned, looking at a map and talking about different sites, and some of these might now overlap a bit with our large available sites that we identified earlier. Most existing lands are slated for development, so in not too long, that inventory that we talked about is going to be a heck of a lot lower. Large areas include the area, the old high school in and around the high school, and the area between North Holiday Drive and US 101. Jeff informed us projects, these numbers might not be exactly right, but 60 units of affordable housing, a 57-unit apartment complex, and then I think we had an undetermined amount of apartments on some city-owned land.
The 69 units is the affordable housing that's on the city land.
Okay,
It's
those
not
are-
the 69 with the developer.
So we'll loop back with Jeff to fine tune that. And then Jeff talked to us a little bit about strategies you're considering. I don't know if any of them have moved forward, but in terms of building heights and allowing taller building heights or mixed use development, some of the more policy and code types of strategies to help encourage additional housing.
I'm curious, what kind of strategies are there to encourage people who own vacant land within the city now, where maybe they tore down a house or something else, and it's just sitting there vacant, and it's in a neighborhood?
I think this is a group conversation, certainly where we start this discussion. I think infrastructure is one of the answers. The more that the city can do in terms of making sure those sites are served with infrastructure, that's going to lower the cost for developers. What do you have thoughts on that, Alyssa?
You're talking about land that's just vacant, where a property owner might not be motivated to do anything.
In my
right?
ward, I can think of probably 5 pieces.
I mean, there's all kinds of tools, right? You could start stepping up code enforcement and look for violations and make it uncomfortable for them to hold property. You could put a tax on it. You could have Jeff and I go knock on doors and say, hey, let's do some housing.
Yeah, you can do incentives too, right? Like what's allowed on that parcel, and if more is allowed, which is gonna increase their return, that could be an incentive.
You're leading into discussions that we want to have with our comprehensive plan that really surround dwelling unit densities and lot sizes. So if you want to encourage the infill into those vacant lots within the city, where right now you can only build one house, maybe we look through our comprehensive plan and zoning code amendments to decrease that 5,000 square foot lot to 2,500. Now you're incentivizing developers to actually build on those vacant lands.
Land parking requirements, that's a big one.
Parking requirements.
Yeah, I mean, that prohibits all kinds of development.
Definitely upzoning, things like the suburban residential being able to be more dense.
I would, if you want to go out and look at something, look at 12th Avenue next to Goodman Park. I don't know what they're building there, but they don't have a very big lot, and they're building a lot. So, and they have no street parking, as we know. Interesting to see what they're doing.
So we're going to be fine tuning and revising based on feedback we get from you and following up with Jeff. If there's any additional information on housing actions, it sounds like that may come as more of part of the comprehensive plan study, so maybe we won't have those in this report, but to the extent that there is any specific proposals, we can include those. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be preparing this final report and executive summary. We'll get that to you, Jeff, for a final review, make sure everything's dialed in, and then you'll have that as a basis for these comprehensive plan housing discussions or any other discussions that you might have. And like I said, we'll provide them in a format where when projects do come through, you can easily refine them and keep that information up to date. That is the extent of our presentation. So I don't know if there's more questions or discussion that you folks want to have. It sounds like you've been talking about these issues for quite some time.
Thank you.
Yeah. There is a parcel behind what we called the Thousand Trails land. It's that purple, and I guess there is a little bit of green on it. I know that was for sale, and I just didn't see a lot of green up there, so it must be very steep. Yeah.
That's that area that's kind of been logged out. Is that the one you're talking about up there?
Stimson on here. Okay. So we're out of land. It's 80 acres.
Including Thousand Trails.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Thousand Trails would be actually.
Anything else, Jeff?
Well, we'll get the maps to you guys so you guys can go and look and get that information to me so we can make this as accurate as possible. And you'll see, get down towards downtown in that resort residential zone, you'll see vacant parcels of land that are being used as parking.
That's right.
Employee parking for businesses, employee parking for a hotel that's right there that's just always been part of the hotel, that they had an expansion plan at some point and never materialized, so they just park on that lot now. So there's lands that are vacant, but they are being used for something right now, which makes it kind of difficult to exclude it from the inventory per the prescriptive method that these guys have to work under that the state sets. So it's not here we're just going to do a inventory for the city of Seaside. There's a prescriptive method set by state law that they have to follow to actually do this work.
When we get these maps, I assume when you drill down, you can see what tax lot number?
Yes, you should be able to.
So
Well, maybe not
should-
tax lot number, but tax lot lines.
But how do we refer specific lots to you and say, what's the deal on this one?
The account number is the easiest thing for me.
Yeah, you can zoom in using Classo County web maps too and see the tax lot, and actually the tax lot number will be fine, or account number's fine. Anyway,
Or the space right next door to X.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm just wondering, the map specifically here, when you drill farther down into it, is it just lots and there's no identification?
I'm not sure, I don't think the parcel numbers are on there. I think it is just lots.
Okay,
Can this
so
map be overlaid on GIS, I guess is what the question is.
I don't know if they
it's
have a layer for the
necessary.
county.
Yeah, they probably don't. So you may have to have two maps open. If you don't know how to get the county maps, it's real easy. Just go to the county website and there's a button right on the front page to go web maps.
Search Clatsop County GIS, it'll take you right to it.
And you can also schedule a time to come in and sit down with me if you've got it highlighted somewhere, and we can look at it, map in my office, and figure it out there too. So feel free to do that if you need to.
Okay?
If I could, one
Yeah.
quick update or correction, the question about the parcels of 5 acres or greater. So the information was correct. I think I just misstated it. So there are 20 parcels of 5 acres or greater, but the buildable acres on those parcels is only 29 acres, right? So once they're 5 acre parcels, but once you remove the constraints, there's a lot. So I should have said buildable acres if I didn't, so I apologize for that.
Very helpful.
All right.
Yeah, that was great, thank you.
You got some homework now.
When's it due?
As soon as they get the maps to you.
I'll get it out to you as soon as I can.
Okay. Anything else? Got a little time to get set up? We're adjourned.
Okay.
Call the Seaside City Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim, please call the roll.
Thank you. Counselor Kozlowski?
Here.
Counselor Hoffman?
Here.
Counselor Binneker?
Here.
Council President Morrissey?
Here.
Mayor Wright?
Here.
Counselor McVeigh?
Present.
Counselor Montero?
Present.
Thank you.
I have a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Council President Morrissey, and Councilor Montero. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have two proclamations tonight. First one is for the National Public Safety Communicator Week. And we have somebody that's going to introduce it that knows all about them. Lieutenant.
Evening, Lieutenant Knight, Seaside Police Department. This week, we get to appreciate our telecommunicators. However, we appreciate them every day. They are the best at telling us where to go, keeping us safe, but more importantly, they're more of our family. So it's nice to have our own dispatch center at the police department. That way we're close with them. So very grateful for them, and thank you for recognizing them this week with Telecommunicators Week. We appreciate it.
We're honored to do it. Councilor Heidi is going to read the proclamation.
And I myself worked as a dispatcher for a very short time while on light duty, so I have a great appreciation for the job and know how hard it can be, and I appreciate the dispatchers very much. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Seaside Police Department Communications Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Seaside Police Department Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients, and whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, Stephen Wright, Mayor of City of Seaside in the state of Oregon, does hereby proclaim the week of April 13th through 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
Thank you. Pass on our gratitude to each and every one of them. We also have a proclamation for Arbor Day that's coming up next week. And we have the chair of our tree board here, Victoria Fuller.
The Seaside Tree Board is proud to be a link in the successful administration of the Tree City USA and Arbor Day programs here in Seaside. We are a group of 5 volunteers meeting 6 times a year who research and plan tree-oriented projects. The end game is to be a resource to educate homeowners and businesses about trees that can be successful in our coastal climate and that will make our city more tree beautiful. Object of Arbor Day.
Okay. Thank you. And Councilor Seamus is going to read this proclamation.
Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are renewable resources giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and trees wherever they are planted are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Seaside has been recognized as a Tree City USA for the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 27th year, and celebrate this recognition by planting trees in Seaside. Now, therefore, Steve Wright, Mayor of the City of Seaside in the state of Oregon, does hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day, and urges all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands, and to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. A witness whereof he has hereunto set his hand to cause the seal of the city of Seaside to be affixed this 14th day of April 2025.
Thank you, Councilor. Be on the lookout. There's some big projects coming up the tree board is working on in conjunction with the museum to create an arboretum that will take place of the one that was there about 20 years ago almost. So we have our student from the high school here today after his work up at the state basketball tournament. Welcome back, Alexander.
Thank you.
Yeah, you might need to pull that out. Just, yeah.
There we go. All right. New at ASB, we got our new presidents in for next year. We have co-presidents. We have Slater Martinez. He's a former activities member. He's going to be a senior. And we have Mackenzie Haig, who is the former head of fundraising, and she's going to be a junior. And those are our new presidents for the next year. ASB's taking charge of the blood drive at the school. That's going to be next month on the 14th, because normally someone does it for their Pacifica project, but no one picked it up this year, so ASB thought that we should take charge of it to keep it going. And then also we are working on Spring Week, which will also be that same week next month. It's actually Throwback Week, not Spring Week. We decided to go a different route from Spring Week this year because student involvement in Spring Week has been iffy the last couple of years. So we thought we'd go back in elementary school, middle school. We did Throwback Week around the same time, and we remember good times with that. So we thought we would bring it back to try and increase student involvement with Spirit throughout the spring. Thank you.
Thank you. Time for public comments. Members of the public may use this time to provide comments to City Council on items that are not scheduled on this agenda for public hearing or public comment. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. You need to have signed up for it. Sign up is over there by the door. I have 3 people that have done that. Okay. First one up is Linda Martin, wanting to talk about the North 40.
Yes, hello. My name's Linda Isles Martin. I live in Seaside. I live on Indian Way. And I'm here to protest your plan to build those low-income apartments on that little piece of land on the North 40. It's too small, and I'm not against low-income housing, but we already have 3 or 4 unfinished apartment complexes that seem to be stalled in town. And I'm wondering why we need so much low-income housing when the population of Seaside hasn't really changed much over the last 40 years. Seems like it's been about in the 5,500 to 6,000 range for a long time. I'm here to argue that the Planning Commission doesn't really seem to make very good plans. They planned the Dutch Brothers and the TLC complex there. You've got all the parking structures in. There has been no construction. And anyone knows that if they drive by that on a Saturday or Sunday morning, the Dutch Brothers customers are blocking the entrance and the egress of that entire complex, and the apartments have not even been built yet. So I don't think they necessarily are looking into the future or planning very well. And now they want to make this plan that is going to totally disrupt mine and my neighbor's environment. So much so that I will sell my house because I don't want a 3-story apartment complex looking not in my backyard, right in my front yard, in my front door. And I'm here tonight to address Seth and Seamus as my council members of my district. I expect you guys to have my back because I'm a long, upstanding citizen of Seaside, and I think I deserve better than to just be pushed aside so that you can build a cheap apartment complex that will probably not even be still standing in 60 years when they plan to upgrade it to fancy condos. But my neighbors and I are going to fight this, and I'm going to go door to door in Venice Park and all the way from 17th to 12th because it's going to affect all of those small streets with all of this increased traffic. And so I just want to let you know that we're going to put up a fight about it, and we will be appealing that decision that the Planning Commission made last week. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is Anita Dotson. Is she here?
Sorry. That's how I broke my wrist. So I have a fracture recent, that's why I haven't been here lately. So I'm Anita Dotson, and I've come before you about the fluoride in our water system. And I have major concerns about it. One, my fractured wrist. And on the 7th, I think I sent you the video, RFK Jr., or Robert Kennedy Jr., put out a statement on X, and I'm going to play it for you. And it's about how women have an increase of 50% more hip fractures. Sorry, I don't like talking in public. IQ loss in children, ADHD, kidney, liver health, and hypothyroidism. I have hypothyroidism. I cured it because I got off your city water. So just so you know, there are health benefits to not having fluoride in the water. So I'm just asking that the people you, or just ask the people that you associate with how many have actual hypothyroidism. It's astounding the amount of people in Seaside that have it. So I'm going to play this for you now in case you haven't heard this.
Fluoride should not be in our water. Fluoride had a strong justification in the 1940s when it was added and people didn't understand the science and they thought its benefit to our teeth was systemic. That by drinking it, it would enter your body and somehow protect your teeth. Now we know that there is no systemic advantage, zero systemic advantage, and that the only advantage comes from topical application. So it's the water that passes through your mouth. You can achieve that benefit from brushing your teeth. And in the era of fluoridated toothpastes and mouthwash, it makes no sense to have fluoride in our water. The evidence against fluoride is overwhelming. In animal models and in human models, we know that it causes IQ loss, profound IQ loss, and it's dose related. So if the more fluoride you get, the higher levels in your drinking water, your urine, the more likely it is you lose IQ and also other neurological injuries like ADHD. It affects, there's science indicates that it affects kidney health, it affects liver health, that it causes hypothyroidism, that it causes osteoarthritis. Women who are more exposed have up to 50% more hip fractures
20 seconds.
than women who are unexposed. It causes fluoridation.
So there's a lot of science that's proving what I have to say. You need to look around with your people that you know and start asking the questions. You need to get it out of our water. You really do. It's a poison, it's a toxic, it says it right on it, and you need to take it out of our water. Thank you.
Thank you. Have Sarah Walker, did you come? Yep. Hi there.
I'm not
Yeah,
nearly
tilt it down a little, it's all right. There you go.
Good evening. Good evening. Does that work?
Yeah.
Good evening, Council. My name's Sarah Walker. I am a new resident of Seaside. Yay. I am here representing the Nicanicum Watershed Council, which is a nonprofit based in Seaside since 1997. And you guys probably know about the council. I am one of 2 new co-directors, and so I thought I'd just stop by and introduce myself, make sure you know a little bit about our mission, and comment on possible opportunities for partnership in the future. So the Nicanicum Watershed Council has served the community of Seaside for 30 years through on-the-ground restoration projects, outreach, and education. We're the only nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting the Nicanicum watershed from the Humbug to the estuary, headwaters to the sea. And our organization primarily focuses on healthy salmon habitat, connected salmon habitat, because if our salmon are happy and healthy, that means everything from our forest watersheds to the ocean are doing pretty well. We have just recent updates. We've recently moved from a staff of 1 to a staff of 3. So we're hoping that with some increased capacity, there are more opportunities for partnership moving forward. And that's everything from identifying fish passage barriers or river restoration opportunities. We've talked to Public Works Department about some projects on the South Fork of the Nicanicum. And then we also just see potential opportunity, like lots of opportunities for education, and would love it if when you come across educational opportunities that you think of us as a partner. I was talking with the mayor a little bit about, if there's open space that the city has that could use some interpretive signage, or if you see needs in the local school system or visitor education campaigns. We're just hoping you think of us as a partner going forward.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, any counselor wish to declare a potential conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Hearing none, I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda, pay the bills, and approve the minutes of March 24th, 2025.
I'll second.
Council President Morrissey and Councilor Binnicker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We tonight have the Civic and Convention Center annual report. Come on down, Brian.
Good evening. All right, is this on? Can you hear me? All right. There we go, much better. Well, welcome. How are you guys?
Welcome to you.
Good, good, thank you. Do we have my presentation? This new guy.
Yeah, we have new help tonight.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, I'm the general manager, and very, very happy with what we have going on over at the convention center. Something that, if we go on to the next slide. Oh, that'd be fantastic. We'll make sure that this. Yes, it works. Good. All right. So the convention center houses a lot of events throughout the year, and I'm very proud to talk about the team that makes that happen. Andy is our operations supervisor, and he has 7 members of his operation team. When we talk operations, that's everything from maintenance to setting up tables, tearing down tables and chairs, and then also all the janitorial, from cleaning the carpets to cleaning the bathrooms. Tina Eilers is our director of sales. She is a team of 1, and she is an amazing team. She's probably at 3 to 5 different sales opportunities throughout every single month. It's at times hard to tell where she's at. She is very active, very, very plugged into the community that utilizes our building. And then our events coordinator, Celeste is what I call the heartbeat of our event center. She gets to know every single event from the planning stages to what the attendees need, and then she's the one that helps communicate to our team of what all those wants and wishes are, which is, we all have known, we've all been a part of a committee, we've all been a part of a plan, and then when you arrive on site, Celeste is the person that makes that happen for us. And then our admin assistant is Jennifer Paimont, and she gets to work directly with me. She handles all of our billing. She handles all of the stuff that you don't ever get to see. And then, of course, me. The building itself was built in 1971, opened in 1972. What's really great about our building is it was built by the community, for the community. Since then, we've gone through 3 different stages of renovation. We are currently at 55,000 square feet total, and out of that 55,000, we have 24,600 feet that we have as meeting spaces. We have just under 9,000 square feet of lobby pre-function gathering spaces that are not designed to have, let's say, tables and chairs, but they're vital for most events. They are the places that people get to stand and talk and to learn about the other individuals within those events. And then we've got Oregon Fine Foods is our caterer, and Roscoe and his team have been doing a great job of keeping up with the amount of requests and changes. And then, of course, we've got our 7-member commission, which meets monthly, and they're a great resource for me. Tonight, I want to talk about 3 different buckets: the economic benefit, the community engagement, and the cultural enrichment of our building. We were built, we were designed, we were thought of from the very beginning as an economic driver for our community. The intent of the building was to bring people to our town during the times of year that we weren't busy. Increased tourism, year-round economic stability, the ability to create jobs around that, and the attraction of new businesses. And we can really see that how the city has grown, the community center has also grown with it. Whoops. In our economic development, we range between $25 million to $32 million a year in economic benefit for the community. We actually track every single event attendee coming into the building, and we really try and keep up on how that is impacting our community. One thing that's not on the slide that we just got is in March of 2025, we had an impact of $4.2 million. Well, if you see March of 2024, that was only 2.1 million.
Can I interrupt for just a sec? We had our YouTube feed go down.
Okay.
And our expert's not here. And I think it's because Zoom decided it chose to just end in the middle of our meeting. So start it over again. We'll see if that does it. Sorry.
You're fine.
I can't do it without interrupting your
you're good.
amazing presentation. So
keep that in mind for my review. the amazing part. All right, so are we back up on YouTube?
I will find out if
Yeah.
you decide to.
Well, we have done our best. All right, I appreciate it. So going this year we're at 4.2 million. Last year we were at 2.1 million. The difference is about 2,000 attendees to our building. So it really does help us to have a larger event, to have people that are coming to a conference rather than a trade type show. We can really drill down to just what is being brought to the area. Then we also have events that come not every year, but maybe every 2 or every 3 years. And those, again, are larger events, 500 to 800 people. You have 1 or 2 of those per month, and we've got a really nice bump. And historical data there, you can see that, the 2020 obviously was a challenge, and we have been slowly regaining every single year since. I did get today through Access Intelligence a convention center outlook, and what we're seeing is, and these are some quotes from different executives throughout the U.S. After a strong rebound and a growth period of 22 through 24, most convention centers are back to what they call a slow and stable mold. So we are looking at being back to that 2015 to 2018 model. We here weren't hit as hard as some of the other convention centers. We were able to come back sooner. We were able to move our employees throughout the city. So when we were able to reopen, we were fully staffed, and that was one of the challenges that a lot of event centers had to restaff and then retrain also. So we were kind of above that curve. Killed me. This new guy.
Oh, and the keyboard's not working. You don't want to guess which one that is?
There we go, perfect. Coming up forward, we're always looking at what is next. 2024, we are looking at we are looking at 98 events that are already booked for this year. That's about 270 days out of the year. And as you can see, going through 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, these events start to book anywhere between 18 months to 2 years, and some of our larger events can book up to 10 years out, which is fantastic, because that really is a bit of business that keeps us going. But we're always about 260 to 285 days per year booked. Our areas of opportunity are August, although this year we're booked more in August than we have. We have 15 days already booked, and that's the challenge there is hotel rooms are a bit higher price, so a lot of conventions would rather not spend that type of money. And then we've got December, January, and February. And those are all 3 months that have a lot of holidays, but then also have a lot of weather challenges. Community engagement. We are a civic center. We are built for being a part of our community. A lot of the things that we host are around our youth, from the pancake feeds to the pageants. And then we also have a lot of functionality within our chamber, of course, and SDDA, but then also Iron Chef, and it's a fantastic event. If you've never been, it is a fundraiser, and it's one of the greatest. And then the thing that I like the best is Festival of Trees. Our building never looks better than during Festival of Trees. They spend almost, I think, 5 days decorating. And then Santa's Workshop, which is a Rotary function that helps kids and families have a toy during Christmas time. Enrichment, we have the Seaside Jazz and Blues Fest. If you've not been to that, please come. It restarted last year. This year had a decent growth. These are types of events that are going to take 3 to 5 years to really get their footing back. And it's something that brings in a lot of arts that we don't see elsewhere. Miss Oregon, that scholarship pageant has been here since the beginning, and again, that's one of those cultural events that come every single year. And then if you've not been around and looked at the different art within the building, please come in, check it out. We've got all of our art is from local artists within 300 to 500 miles of our city. And then the dance, we've got so many different dance groups and kids. The energy level around the kids' events are just incredible. Now, if we could just reduce some of the glitter. What do our clients say about us? You know, when I start looking around, the top one there, TripAdvisor, they're talking about how cleanly our event space is. And I'm going to give that right back to the team that makes that happen. They all take pride in their work, in their quality. And then just the way that our event staff understand how our building works. Every single one of them are empowered to recommend something to a event. So if they see a event and they've got the layout so that people are entering through one area and then exiting through another, my crew is willing to step up and say, you know, if we just did this, you'll have a better experience, and it works. My crew sees every single event happening, and they really, really like it. Our clients love it. Our customer service rating is a little over 96%. We have about 95, 96 events a year. Typically get anywhere between 42 to 48 responses on our surveys. And typically it only takes about 8 minutes and 29 seconds to fill that out. So if you get a survey, please fill it out. Next. Questions? Do we have any questions? Anything I can expand on or answer for you?
You said that in this March compared to last March was almost doubled. Was there a significant increase in the number of events, or was it just more attendance?
Actually, we had only 3 more days of usage and only, I'm not sure if it was 3 or 4 more events. But what we had was 2 larger events that actually came in, and that's the key. If we can get larger events, we can make some major swings.
You alluded to it, but in my mind, the main the main benefit of the convention center isn't necessarily bringing people here during the summer, but it's supporting the off season, the rainy season.
Yeah.
And there was always this kind of vision on there that eventually we would make this city a 4-season city. And I think in the last couple of years we've done that. And I see our businesses really prosper in the off season, and it really makes all the difference, because if they can make it in the off season, then they're going to do well in the summer. So great job to you guys and everything you've done there.
We have also partnered with SDDA to help educate our businesses of how they can utilize our calendar, our events better, so that they can communicate with events coming in prior to them even coming in. All of the information is online. So myself and Tina are actually going to start going out on a regular basis, talking to our businesses and just making sure that that they have enough information to help them, but to also help the experience of each attendee. We don't just sell the building; we sell the whole city. It is a package, from the beach to this, to the cement, to their hotel room, to the convention center.
I am the liaison to the Convention Center Committee. Lucky me. So I just wanted to add, you guys do such a great job of keeping track of all this data. The slides you presented tonight are basically what we get to see every month at the committee meetings, and I really appreciate that. You're tracking it very well. You can see the impact on a monthly basis. Tina is out networking and pounding the pavement to get those free days down, and continue to make that impact that, Seth was talking about. So just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
And you mentioned the commitment to the community, and 3 events that have been happening at the convention center for a long, long time that I think are important to the community. The Pacifica Projects, every May, I think it is. Mm-hmm. The convention center is there for everyone to enjoy, and for the speakers and the high schoolers. I also think every January, the fact that you do the point in time count, and you host CCA and all of the vendors, the people who are there to assist those in need. And one that's been happening for a long time and really does help a local organization is in October, the Hayshakers Square Dance Festival. So I think those are 3, again, showing the commitment to the community.
Yeah, great, thank you very much, appreciate that. I do want to leave with a sales pitch, because that's what I do. The event center, December is a perfect time for anyone to hold a holiday party. If you don't want to hold it at a different business in town, please check us out. We have many nights open, so if you any business that's looking for a place to gather, send them our way. So thank you.
Fill up that calendar.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brian, before you take off,
Yeah.
I just want to say that of all the clients that come in and have given you these stellar reviews, I think what's more important for me is that of the various people who work there that I've spoken to, it's almost unanimous that they're really happy working there. And that speaks a great deal about the environment there from the top down. And for that, I want to thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's something that we are a team, and if that I just let people do what they need to do, and they all know what resources we have, and it just works. So thank you very much.
The longevity of your staff points that out too. Yeah.
I think I now have the second longest employee of the city working with us. So, yeah.
And by the way, if anybody wants to see Brian's report every month, it's on our website under the Convention Center Commission. So just like many of our monthly board meetings are there, so.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you for keep inviting me. I'll make it occasionally.
You're good. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good
Brian.
job. Okay. Boards, commissions, and committees. We still have vacancies on the airport, the community center, and parks advisory. Counselors, you need to get to work. We also have 2 term expirations that we've left open for a while, and Pam Byerly and Jim Kuhn would like to be reappointed for new 3-year terms expiring March of 28.
I'd like to nominate Pam Dyerly and Jim Kuhn for reappointment to the Parks Advisory Committee.
I'll second that.
Councilor Pasalski and Councilor Montero. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your service. If you're out there and you're hearing this, we greatly appreciate what our Parks Committee does, as well as all of our other ones. Tonight, we have 2 different liquor license applications. First one is for Wine and Beer House. Do we have representatives here for that? Come forward and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit what's going on.
Hi, Council. My name's Rod Edens. With your blessing, my OLCC license will pass any day now. It's pending this. Jeff Kilday and Karma Hurd are doing a new project and moving on from the Wine and Beer House. And I just want to keep it going. It's been part of Seaside since 1976 and great opportunity for me. I had a spell where I wasn't working too much and was kind of down. I'm feeling good again now and need something new to do, and I'm real excited about it.
Councilors, questions?
You going to keep the same hours, or are you going to change things up?
Basically the same hours, very similar. So there will be very little changes. It already has a fantastic local clientele. Pretty much stay just like it is.
I move to recommend the approval of the liquor license application for the Wine and Beer House.
I'll second.
Councilor Pasalski, Council President Morrissey. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good
there
luck.
you go.
Thank you.
Yes. We also have the Steady Groove LLC, or the Lion's Den. Come up and introduce yourselves.
Mayor, council members, thank you. This is my wife, Sharky. Sharis Lyons. Sharky's her nickname. And my name's Greg Lyons, and we are looking to open up a new entertainment venue right next to Chalkboard Cafe in the Broadway.
Oh, on the corner.
Yeah, on the corner spot in the Gilbert Building. It'll be called the Lion's Den. It's small, as all of you know who have been in any of those spots along the boardwalk there. So we are anticipating a capacity of about 35 people. So very intimate, live music, comedy, improv, spoken word.
Open mic with the house band.
Yeah, the idea is to engage the community in live entertainment in an intimate venue where they can feel like they're sort of part of the performance. I'm a veteran recording engineer and producer, so the entire place is going to be outfitted with multi-track recording facility, 5 video cameras so we can live stream all of the performances, and with consent, of course, and give the artists something that they can take with them to feel proud of, and that represents Seaside and our, hopefully thriving entertainment community. I know I've performed here many times. We're good friends with Jimmy and Seaside Brewing. I was one of the last bands to perform there before he stopped having live music because of some licensing issues.
We carry all the licenses.
We are fully licensed through ASCAP, BMI, and CSEC, which are the 3 performing rights organizations in the U.S. that carry all of the performing right copyrights. Regarding the liquor license, it's beer, wine, and cider, and sangria. Go ahead.
I say we can wait for questions, but
Yeah.
so we're also doing. We opted for a limited liquor license so that we didn't have to deal with the food restrictions. Same as far as minors go. We would love to have a family inclusive environment, but because it is so small and the profits in the beer, wine, and cider license, we had to keep it intimate for that reason. So we will plan on doing food at some point when we are a little more comfortable with the space and everything going on there. But for now, one of my specialties, I've been in the bar business for 22 years, and I love sangria. I make sangria. And so we're gonna do kind of a juice, wine, sangria bar kind of thing going on. So there's a little something for everybody. I really don't know that we want a full liquor license, don't know that we want the full liability. I also work at Iggy's. I don't know if anybody knows that. I've been there for the last year. I've worked at Sisu Brewing and Times. I was there for over a year. My son worked there with me. He's 18 now. He will have an OLCC limited license or a permit as well to serve. He's worked in the places with me for 2 years. I managed Billy Max down on Avenue U for just over a year. And so we've gotten to know the town quite well. And we had the keys for 3 months today. It's been 3 months, and we've gone through the whole gambit of ideas of things we wanted to do, but we had 2 major boxes we wanted to check. One, what do tourists need in this town? We need to give them something to spend their money on. They come and they want to do things, right? And they want to have an experience in Seaside. So we want to provide that, but then we also want to give the locals something they want. And I know that's the biggest question I get everywhere I've worked is, where can we see live music? Where is there music? Where is there anything going on? I've had to invite multiple people to trivia with us on Tuesday nights because there's nothing to do during the week. So that's where we're at. We're like, we just want to be the ultimate host. We want to create a space for people to be entertained and to entertain. Not everyone has a 3-hour set list that they can just go perform at the Times. So we want to provide a stage. So that's where we're at with all of that.
Okay, questions?
What kind of hours will you be open?
We're looking at Thursday through Sunday, Mondays if it's a holiday, to have like an extended weekend. But for now, we still have good day jobs. He's a solutions architect for a POS retail software company. And then I work at Iggy's. So if it weren't for our day jobs, we couldn't do it. This is a passion project. So Thursday through Sunday, Monday for now.
2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
2 to 10.
So we'll be shut down before the noise ordinance kicks in.
Yeah, but we've also spent the last 2 weeks soundproofing the place. So,
yes.
Yeah.
When are you going to open?
Hopefully 2 to 3 weeks.
I don't know.
This is sort of the last piece of the puzzle as far as the bureaucracy of all of the
we have the health
licenses and
department.
permits.
We can call any day now and schedule the health department. We've already got that approved and everything. We did get the full restaurant license for the health department because even though we are not planning food right now, we have the option. And then also for sangria and ice, or just to cut fruit and ice, you need to have the full restaurant license. So we do have that.
And we'd love to work with some local caterers, and we've spoken to some people that we'd like to partner with.
That's what we plan on doing for food for now.
For special events where we want to have like a more substantial food offering, then we would bring in the food from a catering company.
Okay.
Local.
Anything else?
Looks like Seaside PD did their review and found nothing to disqualify them, so I would move to approve the liquor license application for the Steady Groove LLC, the Lion's Den.
I'll second.
It's Council President Morrissey, Councilor Binnicker. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
They should.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is reconsideration of funding request for trash removal at the unsanctioned homeless camp. Section 4.10 of our council rules says that under a title reconsideration of action taken, any member who voted with the majority may move for reconsideration of an action at the same or the subsequent regular meeting only. Councillor McVeigh has asked to invoke this clause. As far as I know, it's the first time this has happened. So would you state your reasoning and what you would like to see us do?
So we recently took up in the Budget Committee a bunch of requests for funding for different organizations to do what they do. Separately, this came before us, and we got very little information that I think would have been pertinent to making that decision with the full picture. And it's with that in mind that I'd like to look at this again, whether it be, it's come to my attention that the property owner is very delinquent on back taxes in excess of $100,000. If we're giving tax money to somebody who's that far behind, we need to be really sure about that, because frankly, if they're not paying into it, why are they getting out of it? The duration of time that property has been building and then clean up, and then a few years later it's got to be cleaned up because it's once again so far gone. How many times are we going to allow this property to reach the state where outsiders have to come in and take over and come to us for funding for it before they're going to take responsibility for their own property? Now, when they came before us, they said we should have conditions on it if we're going to approve it. And we didn't do that. We didn't put any conditions on it. Okay? We decided to give less than they asked for, but still giving tax money to somebody who's not paying their taxes. I think it's something that we need to be looking at with the full picture as far as what I want to do.
Councilors, do you agree? Do you want to talk about it more or what?
I'm open to talking about it. Do we have the documents or information that the taxes are delinquent to look at?
All of that is available on the county web maps in association with each of the different properties under the owner, and that's just within the city of Seaside.
Okay.
That was sent to all of us by
Yeah.
a citizen.
One of the various people to come forward to talk about this since last meeting.
I definitely want to talk about it because my concern is even more basic, and that is why are we authorizing the use of taxpayer funding to pay the responsibility of a private landowner for maintaining their land? And if we're going to do it for this landowner, what are we going to do the next time a landowner comes to us for this? Because we know that there are other situations in this city that we have been pursuing to clean up their land. And so I don't think it's a proper use of our taxpayers' money to pay the charges being incurred by a private citizen to maintain their property.
Anybody else?
To me, the concept of helping Bill Montero and Randy Snepper clean up this property had nothing to do with the Reamers' wealth or lack thereof. It's about, we have a very sensitive area. Part of it's a wetland. It borders our natural history Mill Ponds Park. There's 170 cubic yards of trash. That's somewhere between 20 and 60 tons of trash that have not been dumped on this property by the landowner, but by homeless individuals who have been squatting on it. And so my concern is that if we leave this in the hands of the reamers, nothing will ever happen with it, and it will continue to get worse and worse. And I hope by cleaning up this property, it can start a wider effort where we can actually take back the mill ponds for the community, as opposed to let it be a place where people aren't comfortable going. And I think have you guys been out to the property? Has anyone been out there?
I have. Many, many times.
Yeah, so now that it's cleared, you can actually see the mill ponds, and I think we have a real opportunity if we move the camp and the Parks Committee gets involved. I think we have a real opportunity, because this property has been going to be cleaned up, not quite there yet, but it's getting there, and been cleared, to reclaim the mill ponds for the public. So I see it as a wider project to really resolve a lot of the issues on the south of town. And so I think this is just part of that. So I'm totally in favor of it, and just hats off to Bill Montero and Randy Stemper for stepping up with their time and money. They didn't have to do this, and really taking on this monster of a project. And I'd almost recommend that the public goes and looks at it, because it's an industrial level cleanup they've taken on, and it's very impressive what they've done.
I think you kind of made the point for me of, if we didn't step up and take care of this with taxpayer funds, would they have taken care of it themselves? Because just over the course of last year, they had multiple contacts telling them they needed to, and it wasn't until it got to the point where they were being threatened with fines that any movement finally happened. I don't think anybody is saying that we shouldn't be taking our hats off to Randy and to Bill for what they're doing. What they're doing is amazing. I wish more people would step up and take care of their neighbors that way. My problem is the property in question, is not public property, not part of the Mill Ponds Park. It's adjacent to it. So are a lot of other properties, okay? But we're gonna fund the cleanup effort. And then what happens when they follow the track record that they've spent the last 20 years that I know of on that property, and not all of that was with them, but specifically that property, of trash just continually being dumped and dumped and dumped and dumped. Are we gonna pay for it again next time? Or are we gonna at the very least, we should be having conditions on any money we're putting forth on this. Because is it a necessary thing? Yes. Is it a thing that is going to affect the groundwater? Like I said last time, yes. It's not part of the park, so that part, I think, gets left out.
What conditions would you recommend, Seamus?
You know, I don't know, other than that, I think at the very least, having it subject to checks, wherein if the property is allowed to go back into the conditions that it was, that liens be put on the property or something. We have to do something.
That's what I recommended when we first talked about it, was have a lien on the property. Because if they give up and pull up stakes and leave, we have no recourse to get that money back.
Spencer, what would be the cost of us applying a lien on a property for something like that?
I haven't asked our attorneys yet. It could exceed the amount that we're giving them. I'd have to get an estimate from them, because I don't know how much is involved in doing that. I know Dan Van Thiel had done some for us previously, but I'm not sure that's the best comparison.
That's my main concern with attaching requirements to it. If it was a bigger amount, I'd be all for it. But it's going to most likely exceed the amount we're giving them and cause a lot more work for our staff. So I'm fine with the one-time help on this property, and fingers crossed we can all work together to keep it clean.
And I'm still not fine with it, because we heard from Bill Montero that it was cleaned up 4 years ago, and you can quote, it was pristine 4 years ago. So we've already seen that was cleaned up once, and the owner did not take responsibility to keep it clean. We also heard from, I think it was Randy, who mentioned that it isn't just the homeless who were dumping there. It was other people dumping there. And again, it's the responsibility of the property owner to evict the people or ask for the people who are camping there to be trespassed. That was not done until recently. And B, to keep it clean as you go along. You don't let it pile up. If you own property, you have a responsibility to keep it orderly and clean. And just because it's next to the mill pond, if it's next to the mill pond and polluting the mill pond, then we should have been citing the landowner for that. So I am not in favor of underwriting the cost of this. This is a cost to the Reamers. They're very lucky to have neighbors such as Randy and Bill who pitched in. But personally, I'm going to say I think they took advantage of Randy and Bill because this is the second time it's happened.
I know of at least 2 other times.
I struggled with this, and I think I mentioned precedent was a big deal for me, and then the use of public funds. So I struggled with those 2 pieces when we talked about this originally. 2 things I think were important in the discussion. One, I felt that the cause of this was spillover from the homeless camp, and that there was some liability is probably the wrong word, but I'll use it, but some liability on behalf of the city that there was not room at the homeless camp and people didn't have a place to be there. The second thing was I felt more comfortable with the trespassing agreement that was in place. I'd be curious to know, has anyone gotten trespassed since we had the last meeting? And that the weekly checks, there was a commitment that there would be weekly checks. Have those happened since the last meeting? Like I felt like there was some commitment to, on behalf of the Reamers, to be more proactive in this area after the last meeting. What I also think is we spend a lot of money on this topic, and I would like to see a real budget around this and a commitment to stay within that budget, and that makes decisions like this easier. We know how much money is available, and we can make a choice of A or B to how to spend that money. And I just don't think we're given that opportunity in this instance.
I want to point out that, again, this isn't spillover from not enough room at the Mill Pond camp. This all predates the camp by years. Okay, the last time it was cleaned up before this was 4 years ago. Prior to that, there was another one about 3-4 years before that. There was another one 3 to 4 years before that. My first time on that property was in the 90s, and it was getting like that back then. This has been an ongoing issue for decades with this particular property. This is not a new thing. It's not spillover from the homeless camp. As much as everybody would like to say that it is, it's been an ongoing homeless camp in and of itself.
Well, let me say I didn't think the residents, the illegal campers had been there for that long. That was my interpretation of what. Okay.
For sure. And it's been different ones, and they cycle through, and some of them come and they stay for a while and then leave. Some longer than others. In at least one case, they were invited by the Reamers to act as management for the other homeless people there, showing not only that she was aware of what was going on and not doing anything about it, she was encouraging it, which is further reason why I don't think it's appropriate to be subsidizing this.
My only position, sitting in opposition, I agree that I don't like the idea of rewarding the Reamers. I see it more as a support of Randy Stemper and Bill Montero for their efforts to help make the area better. And that's where I saw it. If the money went, directly to Recology for the dumping, I think that is maybe a better way to spend it, that it looks like it's
I agree.
for sure taking
I
care
just
of the cleanup.
Supporting.
I agree. I just wish that request would have come in advance.
Which is where the money's going to
Right.
ecology
Right.
for cleanup.
But that's paying Mrs. Reamer's bill. It is not. Yes, we can thank and support the people who are helping their neighbor, but this isn't something that we're supporting Mrs. Reamer, because Recology is going to bill the landowner.
Technically, you are correct.
Right. So again, it's a misuse of taxpayer money to be paying her garbage bill for, in my humble opinion.
It wouldn't be going back to Bill and Randy as much as we would like it to be.
Well, it's not going back to them. It's paying part of the expense that they've taken on.
Maybe
Which
I
is
can
our
clarify.
responsibility.
I think the way it would happen is they'll be placed into containers and taken up to the dump and disposed of there. So it's who's ever taking it there will be paying that. I don't think it's Recology picking up and billing. I think it's likely whoever's going to be picking it up and dumping it, which.
So why isn't Mrs. Reamer paying for that herself? It's her property, it's her garbage.
I'm just pointing out that it's, the fees will be due upon being received at the transfer station.
We also pay for a lot of garbage for other people that don't pay any taxes.
Not paying their taxes.
At our camp.
Okay, not paying taxes and being
That's
100,000 plus in arrears are two completely different things.
I agree that they're two
and
completely
it's kind of
different
offensive
things,
that
but-
you would link them that way.
But the Reamers didn't trash this property, and our proximity to the camp. I don't want us.
That doesn't make it better.
Hold it, let Seth talk.
Spencer probably doesn't want me to bring this up, but the fact that we let unsanctioned camps go on in the mill ponds for years and years and years is part of the reason people feel comfortable camping here. It's happened, and yep, we are probably to blame for that. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is to clean up the mill ponds and open it back up to the public. And I feel like there's pushback of us trying to stop us from doing that to a certain extent. And it's such a small amount, and it's interesting to see the pushback. And I just want to see it resolved, and I appreciate everyone who's stepped up to make that happen.
So again, the property in question is not part of the Mill Ponds Park.
It's borders it, and the trail is indistinguishable from the mill ponds.
It is.
It's
And
right
the
on
Land
border.
Conservancy has property that borders the Mill Ponds Park, and they have kept their property clean.
It's been a battle, I can tell you that.
But they have kept it clean.
At least
They have a
made the
lot more
effort.
resources and people out in the field doing this.
Maybe if she wants the city to clean her property or pay for her garbage, she should give that portion of property that she's not able to care for to the city.
Well, we
Maybe that'll
already
happen.
asked if she would, if she can't take care of it, sell it. And the response we got was, well, I may want to use it sometime in the future.
Okay, may I have a word?
Please.
Thank you. I look at this as something, whether, in the overall picture fits with what we try to do as a council. And the Mill Ponds has been on our Parks Committee list for many, many years. And it was one of the very first things that I found, didn't even know it was there when we moved here. And I really miss going around and being able to feel free to go around that park. I took this to several people, there's at least a couple of dozen, and they're 100% okay with us spending what amounts to a very minor portion, 0.0005% of our budget or something like that. Especially given that it's volunteers that are doing it. They didn't particularly care whether the person that owned the actual property was a millionaire or had millions of dollars or past due on taxes. They just want the mill ponds back. And I had nobody say anything about worrying about that $5,000 is going to break the city budget or it's going to be a problem because in the future, other people are going to want to come to us. That's fine. Let them come.
But it's not, sir, it's not a permanent solution.
And is this
It's
going
not.
to guarantee
And
that you
we
get the
have
mill
spent,
back?
excuse me, I have the floor right now. We are in a situation that was caused pretty much by the state, and, you know, we have some rules we have to follow. And we have tried.
How was it
Will you
caused
be
by the
quiet,
state?
please?
How was it caused by the state? That's
We
what
have
I-
state law,
clarification.
state rules, the
I'm
federal
familiar.
started with it too. We have to, you know, we've tried doing this all along, figuring out what we're gonna do as far as providing a spot. The city council decided that our recommendation would be to set a individual place rather than allowing people to camp according to time, manner, and place. So this has been our decision, and it's what we are at now. The state still does not provide any funds to help us with this. It's completely on the city. And, you know, you talk to Public Works, or we've heard it mentioned many times about how much we have spent already, and we will continue to have to spend. So we just hired CCA to manage the camp, and, you know, another expense that we have not had in the past. So, again, you know, I took this to the people that are the voters, and they said they didn't care that we were spending $5,000. It's not the total bill, but it feels like to us, and I agree with a couple of you, that, you know, that part of this would seem to be at least some our responsibility. So I'm not looking to change our decision, and I'm fine with the way it stands right now.
You may have taken it to some voters, but we have other voters who reached out to us, the people on Avenue S, who have told us repeatedly how expensive it has been for them to protect their property against the actions of the people who are living in the homeless camp in Avenue S. They are the ones who have come to us with the information that you're helping this, but you're not helping to protect us, or helping us to pay for any of the costs that we have incurred in protecting our property and keeping our property in an appropriate fashion because of the actions. So I don't know, you've got people you've talked to, we have what was sent to us by email, we have the property owners and the businesses on Avenue S, and bottom line is, this is taxpayer money, and you don't just singularly use taxpayer money to underwrite and fund the cost that a private person has for their private property to keep it clean. I'm also concerned in what I'm hearing now is that we're using city staff to actually go and usher the people off the property. And again, this is private property. If we say to people, you can do what you want on private property, and these are the rules for how you maintain your property, we have to hold feet to the fire. Otherwise, I just think it's a misuse of our tax funds.
So what you're saying is that we shouldn't be able to call city employees to help trespass people that are on private property?
Trespassing is one thing. Trying to, convince the campers, oh, come over here to this camp instead. You know, trespassing is one thing, but what we were told is that Mrs. Reamer has only asked once for people to be trespassed. That's what we were told.
As a point of clarity, the state laws regarding homelessness and being on property apply to public property, not private. To conflate them is a bit of an issue, and I don't know that they really have the kind of overlap that was insinuated there.
I
As
think
a point of clarity.
that just to clarify, I believe what the implication was that if we put a single place in place for the homeless to be at, and they don't follow those rules, then we don't allow them there. They're going to find another place to go
On public property.
According to
state law.
They're going to find wherever it is.
Indeed.
And at the same time, the private property owner can call public resources to help them clear those people. And all I was addressing was the fact that
I was actually addressing something before you, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't commenting on what you were saying.
Okay. I was just saying that Councilor Montero was saying that we were using public resources to help remove people from private property. We do that all the time when we call and have somebody trespassed. It's not unreasonable.
I think we've been doing more than simple trespassing. So.
I want to reiterate again, this is not an offshoot of the camp. No matter how you tear it apart and look at it, the camp was established in a finite point in time. The garbage buildup on that site predates it.
It probably predates the Reamers as well.
It does, which means that since they took over that property, they should have done something to clean it up. But they didn't. Repeatedly, outside groups have had to come in and do it, whether that be for environmental reasons, for taking care of the amount of garbage that's in there, whatever the reasoning of those outside groups, the Reamers never took care of their own property.
So am I hearing that they bought the property knowing that it was full of garbage?
They would have had to have,
Again,
and did not make any moves to fix it.
they bought it that way, they were aware it was that way, and then they want the city to pay to have the garbage removed.
I don't think the homeless individuals that have been in the mill ponds are using web maps, and so I don't think they know where the mill ponds ends and where private property begins. It's completely indistinguishable when you're back there.
You would be surprised.
What?
You would be surprised.
Okay.
You would be very surprised.
Okay. Well, maybe they are using web maps and they're working the system, but they've been camping in the mill ponds for a long time.
Already stipulated.
I think we're going around in circles now. Is there a motion somebody'd like to make?
Do we have to revote?
Yeah, if there's a motion, we do.
That's what I'm saying. Is there a motion?
I move to withdraw the offer of funding.
I'll second.
It's been moved to withdraw the offer of funding by Councilor McVeigh, seconded by Councilor Montero. Any further discussion? All those in favor of withdrawing the funding, please say aye.
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 And those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So there were 4 that said withdraw the funding. Then I guess that's what we'll do. Motion carries. Comments from city staff. We have, yeah, you can come forward.
I'll come up again.
Okay.
Thanks again for having me. I just want to, again, appreciate the telecommunicators. I can't thank them enough. They're amazing. Some cool stuff happening, some exciting stuff. Hunter Moore, Officer Moore, is on solo status, has been released, so he's on the road by himself, so you might see him out there. Officer Ponick graduates Friday from the Public Safety Academy in Salem, and then we just gave our last offer to one of our reserves who accepted, so hopefully we get him through the process and hired. So things
That brings you back to full staff?
Yes.
All right.
Wonderful.
And telecommunicators are at full staff?
Not yet, but we did give an offer to one dispatcher who's in backgrounds, and we also gave an offer to our administrative assistant position. I will tell you, I was on that. So yeah, and I was on that panel. Oh my goodness, there were amazing candidates. It was hard to pick the best one. We had to actually go to scoring, but it was refreshing to see such quality candidates in a process. So
That's always a great thing, yeah.
So, but thank you.
Thank you. Zach, you got a bunch of work for us on Wednesday, right? We're all here at 3 o'clock, remember? Okay. And it's, oh, Paul's back there. Nothing? Okay, hi. Spencer, tech guy.
I have some HR updates for you.
Oh.
No, just kidding. I'll leave that for John for your future meeting. No, just two things actually came up in a conversation I had with Councilor Montero today. Just about a couple of things, technical things about working with the packet. The first thing is when we created the council OneDrive accounts, I think the thought or the assumption, and I think we know you're not supposed to assume things, is that we provide information to you and then you would organize your drive however you want. And I think only the mayor does that. It looks like everyone else, it's exactly how she drops the files in. And so you may not have the organization you like, or you may not know that you can move things around. So one thing we're gonna offer is we have a filing mechanism that we use at the city. We can easily set that up for you. And then, for example, you would go to the folder for tonight's packet. You'd go to the packet folder, go to 2025, and they'd be all in order right there. We're happy to do that. It's super easy. It's a one-time. We can set it up like that. If you want to continue to manage it however you want, that's fine too. I would say let us know here or send an email to Kim and let us know, and we can put that together if that helps you organize the information on your OneDrive accounts a little bit better.
But regardless, it's backed up to city servers, and any public records request, Kim will be able to get to our data.
Well, I think the OneDrive is the backup,
right.
Meaning the way, however Microsoft backs up, that is backed up. But to the extent that you move it around within OneDrive, it makes no difference. It's still there. Yeah.
And if I make notes on it, it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you were to say move it, if you were accessing it from a laptop, which you can do, and you move the file out of OneDrive, that's different. But as long as it's within OneDrive, we can always access it for a records request. So. Reach out to Kim, let her know. And then the second thing is there a desire amongst any counselors to do some training on using the iPad and for the packet and just other ways to use the iPad? Okay, I received one request and I'll just work with that individual. Perfect. That's all I had.
I've been doing it for a long time, so if you want to talk to me too, that's all right. I gave training to Randy Frank. I think I helped.
That's all I had.
Okay. Anything up, Kim?
I'll just add one thing to Spencer, and that's like, it's not a problem. It's very easy for me to do it, so don't think that you're taking my time away. I can probably do it very quickly for you and have it done, so. If you want to, just ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heidi, comments?
I got nothing.
We've had consistent requests to discuss the fluoride issue. I'd like to just move that we add that to a work session.
I'll second.
Okay.
I would like to make a comment on that. I've been thinking about that a lot. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's still my time.
Because he,
that's fine. I mean, I would, yeah, go ahead. Let's go.
I just wanted to get the second in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like to consider, as opposed to a workshop, possibly, I think our citizens need education as well as us, and the possibility of doing it as a town hall instead, because fluoride was voted into being in our water by the voters in 1984. So I think it's something that a lot of us, not just council, but I think the people who live in our town maybe also would appreciate some education.
I think we're too preliminary for that. I would like to see us have a workshop where we can gather data and information to then be able to say, this is a decision that, or a direction that we're looking at going one way or the other, and here's why, and then we can present it to the public for discussion or whatever.
It's
That's
a step
basically
forward no matter
what I thought was the best. Already asked Spencer to look into a few things. I think we have the option of either referring it to the voters or doing it ourselves, even though it was originally done by the voters. We're obviously following Warrenton. They are undertaking this task. We'll see what they do.
So some of my background, I worked with a bunch of dentists in my previous life. And so, the dental community is very much for fluoride because it does reduce cavities and those things. But I guess, as new data and science changes over time, because science isn't law.
We also wanted to know, what exactly is our cost. That's what brought up Warrenton's.
Yep.
Because it's likely going way, way up.
And so
we'll
with
put
that,
it
I
on
think
a
it's
work
worth a
session.
discussion.
Yeah.
This was the first time I'd heard anything that it's different if you ingest it versus you put it on the teeth. I mean,
Sure.
I'll say, I don't know anything about fluoride.
Yep, I don't know enough about it either, and that's why I want to have a discussion.
Sure.
I agree.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Good?
So that was a motion with a second. Do we need to vote?
No.
Can I ask
Which
for
are the best things to be
Our rule is that two counselors bring it, or the mayor just says we do it, so we're doing it.
So I would like to know what we would like to get out of the work session, if there are expectations on what you'd like to get from staff and things like that, so it's a productive discussion.
Cost changes.
Costs?
Predicted cost changes with coming tariffs.
Well, ask me on what day.
Yeah.
Plus the predicted.
I can tell you what our costs are.
Yeah.
If there are known cost increases, we could speculate. I can tell you.
I would like to see if there is a way we can get a document with links to scientific data over the last, say, 5 years.
Yeah, I'll just
because I've been out of it for 20.
By saying, in my experience on this particular topic, you can find whatever data you want.
Absolutely,
out there.
and that's what I'd like to see. Is I'd like to see, scientific journal information, not Dr. Zoe telling me,
Would you agree then that peer review would be the way to go on that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can evaluate the veracity of the data.
It being peer reviewed in a scientific journal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Already.
Yeah, that'd be great.
After having recently toured the water facility, we have some resources there that are very knowledgeable about the fluoride topic that might be interested in.
No, we have people that are very capable of treating the water per the regulations and the way it goes. When it comes to the science of fluoride, they do not have that expertise.
They're doing their job.
They have
Right,
they have strong
Doing
opinions
their
on
job
that,
safely.
but it's not
Scientific.
It's personal opinions rather than anything through training, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
So
Scientific information.
yeah, I will do my best to try to find whatever unbiased research there is. That may be tough. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I would love to see some information that comes from both sides.
Yes.
Because I think that there are benefits of fluoride, but in the meantime, there may have been other information regarding ways that it's presented to us or given to us that changes the outcomes.
I agree.
We'll work on it. Anything else?
We had some comments from a citizen regarding the Pacifica project. That has raised questions for me as to how much information and I'm going to call it education have we provided to the neighborhoods surrounding the Pacifica project.
Jeff, do you have any comment on that? Did we do, I'm trying to remember, 'cause it's been a while, did we do a press release after the approvals some time ago.
It was in the
I
paper.
remember we had talked about it.
I know it was in the paper.
That's
Yeah.
I
that's
have to go
not.
back and look.
So for the neighborhood, they went through the land use process for the planning commission. So neighbors were notified within 100 feet of the project of their ability to come in for the public hearing and testify about it. Related typical process for these types of developments is they will start doing outreach, and they've been wanting to get in to do an outreach event with this council to present where we're at. We're waiting for one final piece of the pie, and that's the funding, and we should be hearing fairly shortly if this project's going to get funded, and they want to come in and present to the council where we're at, what the funding mechanism is, and what the final development plans look like. And it's substantially similar to what this council's already seen with the 69 units and the parking and the availability.
And I agree, if we were going to do outreach to the neighborhood, let's have Related Northwest do it, because they're going to do a better sales job, if you will, than we will.
We definitely, because it's obvious that everybody doesn't have all the facts and all the knowledge, and you can't make good decisions or good judgments or even know what's in it for me or how is it going to affect me if you don't have that kind of information.
I will add, we will never meet the expectation that every comment online is accurate.
Well,
Because I read through some of the comments, and I'm, like I do all the time, I'm kind of, want to bang my head a little bit, but we can educate people to the degree they want to listen. You know, for example, had they come to the work session today, that there was a lot of
I thought the same. I thought about that as well.
But anyway, and part of it is also pointed out that the state has made this such a priority. They've done certain things to fast track and bypass the normal public process. For example, to rezone a property for this type of use, because it is such a high priority. And so, again, that's part of the discussion that can happen with the neighbors is.
And the understanding that land use laws are put there to say, if you follow these, you can do this, as opposed to we get to decide if you get to do it regardless of what you've done.
Yeah. And I think people need to understand the whys and the hows and what it's going to look like. It's not an assumption that because it's going to be 30 to 60% of AMI that it's going to be rotten housing.
Housing laws at the state of Oregon have changed at such a rapid pace that nobody can keep up.
Yes.
In fact, we're working through a grant right now to update our housing code, and I was contacted by the state. Are you sure you guys want to do this? Because laws are going to change this legislative session, and it's going to make this decision we made was, yes, we need to start. We need to get going. We'll update them again later when and if we need to, which we will likely need to. But in certain situations like this, the local land use authority has essentially been taken out of the fold on decisions when it comes to low-income, deed-restricted, affordable housing. That's all handled by state law now, to where we don't have a lot of decision-making in that as a city.
But that property in particular was zoned industrial or manufacturing. Which one was it?
Yeah, industrial.
And the fact it was,
and they're allowed to put housing on it.
I'll add
and it
to
was
that
given to us with a caveat.
There's nothing unique here to Seaside. As you look across the country, one of the biggest reasons we have a shortage in affordable housing is because of movements all over to say, I agree we need more housing, but don't do it in my backyard. And so everyone says put it elsewhere, and that's kind of where we are today.
And that's what we have to recognize. We have all the reasons, we have all the laws, we have everything. But people who are living in those neighborhoods, they have questions. And without answers, they make assumptions. And so it's incumbent on us and on the developer that is doing the work to make sure that people have the information.
This is a long-term investment for them and their partners, and so it's, obviously we know that they have a long-term commitment to the property, but but they also are going to be long-term neighbors. And so that's something
And
we
the
can
fact
discuss
that-
about what they've done with other developments and what they can do here.
And the fact that one of the principals in the development company actually lives in the neighborhood. So,
And her mother lives
Yeah.
in the neighborhood. The principal doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Councilman
But-
Terrell, as I've always said, if your constituents have questions about development in the city, come talk to us.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There is almost nothing in our office that's not public record, and we will sit down, go over the file with anybody that wants to know, and explain what the situation is. So if you have questions about development, if your constituents do, have them call us, have them come and talk to us.
And I totally appreciate that, and you know that I do that. We also have to kind of anticipate and reach out, not always make people reach in.
Jeff, I have another quick question. What is the deal with that house that's half burnt down up on Alpine?
I haven't looked into that lately to see where it's at. I'm not sure if they were planning to redevelop it or if it's going to be a situation where we need to look at our dangerous building code and utilize that tool to address it.
Okay, because it looks like it's being used as maybe a place for kids to gather and party.
Okay.
Because it butts up against the woods. I walk dogs up there.
Okay.
And I'm seeing a lot of
I will-
evidence of them maybe squatting in there or using it to party.
We will get on that.
Thank you.
Take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, and one final thing from me. I have coffee with the counselor this coming Wednesday on the 16th at 10 a.m. at Bagels by the Sea.
Janice?
I really don't have anything left tonight. Other than that, I am, as I said, thrilled by the job that the convention center and its staff are doing. And hats off to both Randy and Bill for the job that I really wish more people would step up and do to take care of their neighbors, take care of their environment.
Chris?
When I saw the picture of the dunes and the removal of the sand that was coming up over the prom, it prompted my memory for the dunes and the plan, and just wondering where that's at. Are we waiting? Do we need a workshop? Where are we at?
Yeah. Our city manager is just overwhelmed right now.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. And, we keep piling more things on him. We did have a meeting with a good deal of, it was, what's
State
it?
parks, mostly.
Yeah, Regional Solutions.
Yeah.
And we had a long lecture by the guy that really knows about dunes, and our plan is to
From Dagami.
From Dagami. And we're planning to have him come and, either address the council specifically about dunes and why we're having this problem, or perhaps make it a town hall kind of thing.
It's
because
both,
people wonder why. And I found out that basically the south half of our beach does not have this issue because the way the tides and the currents work, it all ends up on the north end.
I think that I had two takeaways. One, it was good information on why this is happening. The second part is concerns about what the effects of removing the dunes or lowering them would have, both in the protection from the sea for that city in that area, and then also how it will affect future dune accumulation. And so there's a lot to unpack there, and I think, as the mayor just mentioned, we'd like to have him come in and do a presentation to the council. And all of that to say, any grading is a complete short-term solution without the ability to remove sand from the beach, which is prohibited in state law. Anything we do is just a kind of a Band-Aid. We can keep pushing it out towards the ocean, but the whole thing is going to get higher over time. And so I think a lot of that will inform our strategy on what we want to do. And understanding the effect of the dunes on protection of the city is something we do need to understand. So I wish it were more straightforward than that.
Thank you.
Good. Seth?
I mentioned this briefly earlier, but I would like to politely encourage the city and the Parks Committee to, as we move the camp to the new location, start working on opening mill ponds back up to the public, reclaiming it, whatever signage needs to be done. We have an opportunity, I think, when we make that move to actually open that back up and let people use it. Clearing this property was a huge help, and I think when the camp moves would be the right time to do that.
So maybe this is something for a future council discussion, because I think staff's approach had been, we want, right now it's the parking lot is closed to vehicles, but the park is open to pedestrians. And our goal has been, our belief has been the best thing is to completely close it to all pedestrians for a period of time, to prevent homeless individuals getting in there at all, and allowing the park to heal from so much use over the recent years, and then to open it back up, and hopefully patterns of behavior of cutting through there and going in there will have changed. That would also give us the ability to, with correct signage and whatnot, to immediately trespass anyone in there that's unauthorized. It would be easy to tell. But it sounds like that would be a good thing for us to discuss. One of our ideas was we want to ensure we get a closure done before the camp moves, because we know that we're going to have many individuals who don't want to move and will flee into the mill ponds during the move process. And so that was kind of one of our things. And so there's probably lots to consider there, and probably a good conversation for staff and council to have.
I think that's a great idea, as long as the end goal is to open back up the mill ponds, and however you want to do it, I'm fine.
I think originally we had talked about closing it through the remainder of this calendar year and then opening it up in January, recognizing the first few months of the year wouldn't be heavily used anyways, but hopefully that would be enough time to break some patterns of behavior. But we'll kind of put a proposal together, bring it back, and let the council discuss it. And if anyone has ideas on comments or thoughts on that, as we're kind of fine-tuning what we're going to recommend, it'd be good for us to hear any concerns or thoughts ahead of time.
And maybe include in that what kind of actions might be taken regarding the native plants, the brush, et cetera, to put it in shape for public use again.
Yeah.
I also wanted to bring a letter from MB Law to the attention of the council. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it, but this is kind of a new phenomenon in the last year. They've been popping up in the Cove. They're called e-foils, and it's basically like the equivalent of a little jet ski. It has a little motor on it and it has a giant metal propeller, and they go up to 30 miles an hour. And if you're not a surfer, you don't really understand the danger of these things, but every month it seems like there's another one popping up. And I'm just kind of putting this out there that we feel, this attorney's written it, and I've talked to other attorneys, that it's already against the code. It's 93.03A. And there's going to be more and more movement you're going to see come out about this. So I'm just putting this on your radar. If you want to take a look at them online, they're pretty neat, but they're illegal to launch on our beach because you can't launch any motorized craft. And the people that are launching them refuse to comply with the law, and they keep doing it. And I'm not really concerned if there's one e-foil out there, but one weekend there was 5, and then pretty soon there's going to be 20, and someone is probably going to die or get seriously injured because they're very dangerous when they're mixed in with swimmers and surfers. So just putting it out there for you guys to kind of look into and bring back your thoughts on it. And one other thing I'd say, I've instructed the surf community, because it's like a mutiny about this, that this hasn't been dealt with. I've instructed them to wait and let the city kind of look at what we can do, but you're going to start hearing from them soon. I can only hold them back for so long. I'm just representing them.
Does that ordinance also pertain to jet skis?
Yeah. Any motorized craft.
Skis out on the...
So I can explain it. Yeah, if you go out the river, you can technically be out there, but you can't launch on Seaside Beach with a motorized craft, is the current code.
Did you send me a copy of what you sent to the council?
I didn't send this to anyone.
Oh.
The lawyer sent it. But
You got
I
it.
just got it.
Did I get it?
I think I forwarded it to you.
Maybe I haven't got to that email yet.
Yeah. Again.
People stopped emailing me. I couldn't read my emails.
Seth,
One
are
more-
they
one more
launching
issue.
in the Cove?
They're launching in the Cove, parked in the Cove parking lot.
And have we cited them at all? Do you know?
The issue is a law enforcement issue because they launch and they run out into the water, and our busy Seaside police cannot wait around to enforce them. So I'm working on signage and other things that'll hopefully solve the problem.
So, yeah, a little more context, because the chief and I have been looking into this. What happens on the water is nothing that we can regulate, but we can regulate what happens on the beach. And our code says you can't launch a motorized vehicle from the beach. The code also says the police chief has the final decision on what can or can't happen, what can or can't be enforced. And as he's looked at the difference between a foil and an e-foil, to him they're difficult to even differentiate one from the other, and has decided that he will permit them. It's not a beach issue, it's a out in the ocean issue. And so I think this is a good discussion for the council to have. I think it's a difficult situation to regulate what happens on the ocean through what they can do on the beach. The other thing that is really interesting that came up, I can't remember what discussion we were having, but what meeting was recently, but if you go to the county web maps and put on the layer for the city of Seaside, a significant portion of the beach right around the cove, the city boundary ends at the back of the developed lots and doesn't extend anywhere onto the beach. So there's a big chunk of the beach that is not in Seaside and would not be. It surprised me and would not be governed by any city ordinances. It would only go to whatever state parks or state rules there are.
And do we know if state parks or has any rules about this on the beach?
Well, even if they did, they wouldn't enforce it.
Yeah, it's a city ordinance.
But there's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, sounds like.
Okay, well, we've got our work schedules out to 2026 now. Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
That's all, okay. I just remembered that I attended committee meetings for two of the counselors that were out of town, and I didn't make any notes about it. I remember the library board, well-run, did a good job. New website, that was it.
That's right.
You got to go to the new library website. And the Community Center Commission, they didn't have a quorum, so they couldn't really do things, but they had a lot of discussion and are looking forward. That day it just happened to rain again, and our little lake out in the parking lot started filling up. Mm-hmm. So, but they're doing a good job. You all got homework tonight, don't forget that, and Jeff will forward on the map access so you can get to work. This is kind of a time crunch type thing, so get to it as soon as you can. Next meeting, we'll have the winners of the If I Were Mayor contest. You should have seen the young lady that is the winner when we held up her poster, and just, I wished I had my camera out. But she'll be hopefully sitting right here between us, helping run the meeting at the beginning of the meeting next time. Another new website, tourism has a new website, it's still the same name, seasideor.com. It does work a lot nicer on your phone now, and that's how a lot of people will be accessing it. Take a look at that. Lodging tax, House Bill 3556 did not get out of committee. They had people that weren't going to push it forward, and so that we are looking at other options. I'm still very willing to talk to anybody that wants to talk to me about lodging tax and how we move forward. I already mentioned the budget committee at 3 o'clock. I just threw this one in because I was amazed. I had a March Madness bracket in the top 99.71%. I was one of 13,000 in the top, out of the millions. I thought it had to be a mistake. I went back and looked. And, it always helps when there's 4 number ones end up in the final 4.
Did you win just as much as number 2 did?
Yeah, no, it's just bragging rights and a fluke. Anyway, a fun thing. So tonight, in honor of our tree board, our Tree City status, which I believe is still the longest status in the county, we're ahead of Cannon Beach, I think, by about 2 years or something, and Arbor Day. Repeat this old Chinese proverb that I used a couple of years ago. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. We're adjourned.